All right, everyone. Welcome to another No Gi Required podcast. I've been trying to get this guy here with us for quite some time. He lives in another state. Jay Zabalos, thank you for being here again, sir.
Always
Mike,
happy to be here.
thank you for making this happening. Yeah, today I have somebody, I'd say very special to me because he had so much influence in my life. I think for quite some time, he became the father figure in our family with all the brothers. Here with me, my oldest brother, Carlos Machado.
Welcome.
Man, here we go. Look at this. I have him here in person, which is, we're talking about to do those podcasts like Zoom or Skype, and I said, no, man, you got to be here. And here we go, sir. Thanks for being here, Carlinhos.
Man, I'm surprised. I mean, I was not expecting this. You called me earlier today. I said, hey, come on over. We're going to do a podcast. I said, what? I'm in.
You guys are all like his brothers. When we started this, I'm just like, okay, at the top of the list right off the bat are you guys. You
and see how long it took me to get him?
World record, huh?
Yeah.
Man. But Carlinhos, let's start this, man. Let's go back in time here. Let's see how far
my memory goes.
Yes.
Hey. I know how old I was.
All right, let's do this. When was your first baby steps in Jiu-Jitsu? When did Jiu-Jitsu start in your life?
4 years old. I think I had my first tournament. I was 5 actually, in a yellow belt. I was training with Carlos Gracies actually. I was not with Holes yet. Had 4 matches, won 3 matches. In the last match, I was winning by 2 points. I was in the kids' guard. I stood up, and Carlos Gracies at the time, late master Carlos Gracies was saying, stay down, stay down. I stood up. I remember the kid doing a tomoinage on me flying over, seeing the ceiling. I landed, they landed on top, and then he scored 6 points. I didn't know what points were at that time. All I remember is when we finished the match, I remember the previous matches, everybody was raising my arm. And the very last one, they raised the other kid's arm, and I cried. So then I transitioned to Halls, but it was...
I think all of us on the
I started when I was 4.
Early days, and how was that for you, growing up and doing Jiu-Jitsu? How was that, having other 4 brothers following your steps and also doing Jiu-Jitsu and annoying you every day?
Yeah, well, I was older than you. Higgin grew up my size. Higgin started to give me trouble since early age. And then with my cousins, Helion, our cousins, and the other ones are all older. So there was somewhat of a pecking order. We all knew who was better than who was older than who was, very easy. But I think as we all grew up together, it became part of our philosophy. No one would slack on training, because if we did, the other brothers or cousins would get ahead. And then whenever we decided to go train again, it would be payday, So you guys kept me honest, I'm telling you.
Now, nobody ever, given the scope of the family, it was jiu-jitsu. I kind of gather that it was just expected of all of you, or did anybody ever just like, no, I don't want to do this. I want to do something else. Or was it all just kind of like, no, you guys are old enough. You're going to the academy and you're going to start training. Did it ever feel like that? Or was it just like, no, this is fun. I enjoy doing it and I'm all in.
I cannot speak for Jean-Jacques, but I think both our parents supported us a lot in jiu-jitsu, but our mom, I think, was the one that would take us. Our dad used to work all day and stuff, so she was really, I remember doing lessons with late Uncle Helio when I was a kid before I went to Carlson. He was teaching the self-defense and all this stuff. He had the building at Rio Branco Academy, which was one of the oldest Gracie academies in Rio de Janeiro back in the old days. The academy was from the 60s. There was yeah.
And the people don't know that the apartment that we used to live in Rio de Flamengo
used to be a school too.
Used to be a Gracie school.
Yeah.
And our dad bought, because there used to be a residential building and was so big.
Wow. They had suites
but
and stuff.
We grew up inside the school.
We always had mats in our, wherever we lived. Like in our apartment, we had a room with mats and houses that we lived at different times. Even here in America, we all have mats in our houses. Just if not, we just move the coffee table, and that's how me and Jean-Jacques we spend time together breaking down things. It's kind of like it builds the affection between the brothers. Just to know that we have something that holds us so tight.
But Jiu-Jitsu is fun for us. We're having a blast. We never realized any of us will follow and teach. No, we're just doing for.
When we first started as a student, nobody sees ahead. We just see what's just in front of us. We just want to. I didn't enjoy much some things. For instance, I was always trying to prove to my instructors. We had that thing you cannot lose. You just God, that was that mentality, being undefeated. You
pressure.
So every time I competed, actually, I was better than most. I don't think I fought anybody that I felt was better than me, even the times that I lost. But I felt the pressure mentally that I never fully enjoyed because I was always thinking that I was doing that because I want to make somebody else happy. And after coming to the United States, especially after moving to Texas, then I started to figure, if I'm going to do, I'm going to just compete for myself, just because I want to do it. And I started to become more successful.
Yeah, we make sure we keep the pressure on him. He's the oldest one. We go behind. You better be in good shape. You're supposed to be tapping everyone. I mean, we're gonna stay right on your tail, sir.
Yeah, I know. You guys kept me honest.
I remember some weekends we used to travel, and we always have on the back of our car a canvas.
Yeah, to put on the.
We got canvas. We put on the backyard.
If we spend the weekend in a place that had a backyard with grass, we would. I remember training in the moonlight. It was all dark and just rolling. I mean, there was not a single. Nowadays, people say, "Oh, you train every day, or you train every other day, or you train 7 days a week." We didn't count, but we spent more time on the mat than most people, just because for us it was just natural.
Yeah, and when you're at that, when it's that important to you, then you clearly know that this is it's part of your earth, air, fire, water. It's just like your nourishment.
We are not forced to do it. We just did naturally because we really wanted to.
Oh yeah, we always want to train.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember our friend Ronaldo had the gym up on the mountain, and I remember.
Yeah, the shower is a natural fall water coming from the.
They had a spring and a cascade like a waterfall that you go right under. But I remember at the base of the mountain, it's probably like 1.5 miles, 2 miles. No, maybe more than that. Maybe.
No, it's pretty high.
Maybe 3 miles of at least 3 miles of a steep road. I would always ask, okay, let me get off here, and I would run from the bottom until the top where the guy's house was. Okay, now I'm warmed up. I can start training right away.
And many times the training starts at midnight.
Yeah.
People are going for the nightclub. We're going for jiu-jitsu training.
It was, I don't know. We didn't even think of it. We just did it.
And how was it for you growing up and you have 4 younger brothers that also followed your steps in a way and all have the same passion? How was that for you looking down? And
what's funny is when I look back at jiu-jitsu from the perspective that I have now, I felt, you always give credit to your instructors, who you train under. And I have a long list of people that have been instrumental in my training. But by far, my brothers, all my brothers, including Jean-Jacques, were the main ones that formed the jiu-jitsu that I have, And of course, we had influence from the cousins and everything, we input from them. But because we spend more time training with each other,
we have easy access to each other.
I don't know. I just can tell. Like, man, I spend more time training with my brothers than I did with everybody else. And all that mat time, makes a difference.
And I tell my students today that whenever we start training, we never train 10 minutes. It's 50 minutes, 1 hour, then look at each other. Who's going to ask to stop?
No. I never had that problem. Like Jean-Jacques, for instance, if you train with him, maybe you can relate. I don't remember ever going for a session with Jean-Jacques that I was not the one saying, okay, we had enough. It's good. Last time we rode, I think it was 45 minutes, a long time ago. Got to start doing that again.
We're not even supposed to be training. We're supposed to do a photo shooting with Keanu Reeves.
No. I'm talking about before when actually we did
the
train.
last time, then we just all sweaty.
No. I'm kind of trying to work a hook flip with Jean-Jacques, and then Jean-Jacques said, but if you do this, I do that. And then I said, well, if you do this, I do that. And all of a sudden, we start to go after each other and sweat. And we're all red in front of the camera, like when we're supposed to be all looking cool, So I said, let's slow down here. We're getting too sweaty. Yeah, that was funny.
We looked at each other. Who cares about the picture? We got to make sure the hook works well.
Now, you were the first one to leave Brazil?
Higan.
Oh, Higan.
Higan left a little over a year before us, came to visit and said, man, you guys have to come because...
But no, I got to say something here. Before we go to get to U.S. first, when we grew up in Teresópolis, back in those time over there, I think in our school, local high school, I think we have maybe 2,000 students. I'm not saying how many students we have.
Yeah, it was a small high school. Not high school and middle school.
Yeah, 2,000 people there.
Maybe 2 to 3. Yeah.
Carlos was the number 1, number 2 student every year.
Oh, you mean talk about academics now?
Yeah, the smartest guy. He's like, man, we're like, he just used to see a book and he reads so fast, so quick. And we spent hours reading and studying. He just go like, bam. And he was always...
I liked to study. I was a nerd and a jockey. Is that how you say? Like a football players or athletes. I could relate to... I was friends to the nerds and to the athletes,
And we always like, man, how the hell does he do that? And here we go.
I always liked to read.
He was the brain of the family. I mean, all the 4 left ones. The other brother's not that smart. I think he took all the smart aspects.
And you write too.
Yeah, I write as well. I haven't written that much. I plan to write another book.
No, I'm gonna go in a little and get the book that
That's
I left
right,
over
I forgot
there. Yeah. But Carlos, how was that growing up with 4 brothers? How was that for you, especially being the oldest one? We went through a lot of things. Everything we went through together, from the ups and downs. Mm-hmm. How was that for you?
I have some notes I made here.
See, when I say he's the smartest one,
I think
you guys see, I got notes.
The first thing was seeing first to be raised and then rising up, right? So we had a wonderful household. Our dad was a judge of a high-level court. Our mom was a household, young lady at the time. And the 5 brothers are always involved in sports. Jiu-Jitsu was our main activity, sport-wise. And our cousins had always been greatly interacting with us. We lived in each other's households. When I went to college, I used to live in the house of late Master Carlos Gracies, Sr., my cousin Helion, Carlos Gracie Jr., and Crawley. They all live in the same place. But being with the brothers, I felt was an evolution. Like, for instance, Higan, when he was a purple belt at that time, he grew so big and technical and talented. The guy was so really creative with his jiu-jitsu. So he would do stuff that people never saw before. You're talking about nowadays, the different kind of guards that people call different names. I saw Higan doing similar things back then, but we didn't have a name for it. So anytime we had tournaments, I would watch Higan. Man, it was like watching a show. Mm-hmm. He would be the most spectacular match, And of course, Jean-Jacques, as he grew up in the ranks, he had his name is like the guy Braulio Casalade. Yeah, man, he had this guy from Carlson Gracie Academy. They would go in. There was an occasion that guy had the best of Jean-Jacques, won by points, but then Jean-Jacques avenged and tapped the guy out. He was just like, our academy was close together with Hickson's academy. We all competed the same against Carlson Gracie Academy. So it was all a duo of Gracie academies going against each other. So it was interesting to see, like, for instance, Jean-Jacques and John coming from yellow belt, because we had a little gap in terms of age. And we're already black belts. And
he's a lot older than me.
Jean-Jacques, not a lot older. So I remember Jean-Jacques, when he was purple belt, man, he was just like on a terror, and people would make bets, some of our cousins, I'm not going to say names, but they say, oh, you can't tap him in 10 minutes. So some of the black belt, relative would try to go with Jean-Jacques in the 10-minute, even Higan couldn't get him. You know, his defense got so good, he got so skilled. So it was nice to see from a brother's perspective, my brothers, you know, me as an instructor with Higan, and then they coming. I mean, I always tried to give them whatever support, but as they grew of age, they became on their own right amazing, you know, jiu-jitsu guys. So it was nice to see, you know, that from a brother's perspective, I became somewhat of a fan, not just an instructor or supporter. So, you know, it makes you proud, you know, when your brother does well.
Absolutely.
And so he created, you know, so it was interesting. Now, as we are rising in Brazil, you know, I remember Jean-Jacques and I became the main instructors of the academy before I came to America. You know, we were talking about the United States, so just to give you the perspective. And it was when Higan went to the U.S. in 1989. That's when he went, or end of '88. He came back in '89 saying that the first Gracie Academy was to be open. He wanted to do wrestling. He needed some help. And so eventually me and John first came to live in the United States. Jean-Jacques became the main instructor at the academy we left off. And eventually he went and moved to another academy. And eventually he made the transition to the United States.
I wanna before you go and we make that transition to US, you and Higan had the chance because we used to live in Teresópolis. It's I would say like a big bear city up in the mountain, and because you start out your university that was in Rio, then you and Higan end up moving and start living at Carlos Gracie Sr.'s house.
Yeah.
How was that growing up over there with him?
I call that the golden years, you know, because you're a teenager and living in Ipanema, most beautiful beach, most beautiful women. You train and I became an assistant instructor. So I had somewhat of a position of prestige. Higan, the same thing. We started helping out our cousin. And it's kind of like, I don't know, man, everything was perfect. It was perfect. We had the best time. And then on the weekends, we'll go visit our house.
But how was that like growing up and see every day and some of the conversations and stories that Carlos Gracie?
I spent a lot of time with Uncle Carlos. He didn't talk much about jiu-jitsu with me. He talked more about philosophy of life, his vision, spiritual view of the world. You know, he had his own. He was a non-religious person, very generous. He was a healer. You know, he used to actually have a home office where he took care of a lot of clients. There were lines of people coming to his place, and through diet and herbs and different natural healing protocols, he would do all kind of amazing stuff to a lot of people. You know, he got a lot of. He was super busy, but in his downtime, you know, he would talk about things like why he believed, for instance, there's a God, there's a creator. He kind of give me perspective. He told stories about his life when he was a kid, how jiu-jitsu actually saved his life, and he would have been either in jail or dead if it was not for jiu-jitsu. With the other cousins, it's just kind of like living in a dorm. You know, we would pick on each other all the time. Mealtime, we had the cook, Olguinha. She would bring all these different pastries and stuff during the meal. We would end up in fights because everybody would just jump into
when you have a lion that hunts and you have the zebra.
You kill the zebra and then all the lions try to bite each other.
All the lions kind of eating, they look at each other like, it's kind of like, better move. There was that kind of tension at mealtime. That was crazy.
We acted like barbarians.
But when you don't have a presence of Carlos or a mom or aunt, anybody on the table that was older, if it's just us, it's a bunch of lions.
Yeah. But at the same time, great support. Everybody was there for each other. It was a magic time for me. Good memories.
And what made you, and I know because we lived together before you left to U.S.
I was your roommate that left all the mess for your wife to clean. I remember that.
For us to move to Barra da Tijuca, where we opened the Gracie Barra School with Carlinhos. Mm-hmm. And there was avoiding traffic. That was a beautiful place. Yeah. And life was good, but what made you suddenly accept the Higa invitation?
I think
a lot of people don't know
my brother
Carlos.
John, your brother, ironically the youngest, said, "No, we gotta go," because John, at the time, was trying to do the farming stuff, going to farm school and agriculture, and that was not something at that time in Brazil that had that much perspective, right? We got a piece of land, and all of a sudden we're going to live in the middle of nowhere. So he convinced me, said, Carlos, we got to take this in consideration. Our dad, as a matter of fact, he also said, if I was in your age, I would do it too. You got to give it a try. He was worried about Higan. Said, you guys got to go there and help your brother because, I think he may need your help. There's an opportunity. Mm-hmm. So we didn't know exactly what to expect, and we didn't have a sense of mission at that time. It was more adventure and a question mark. But we knew that, for me, the way I felt in Brazil, there were not that many tournaments all the time. It was just sporadic. We had won several tournaments already. The school was just big enough to give us enough perspective. We had two partners, besides JeanJacques, our cousin, and it's just kind of like, we can only grow so much here. So, okay, let's give it a try,
And how was that beginning for you in America? Because what a lot of people do not know is, today they know we left a country that everybody knows who we were. Mm-hmm. Suddenly you come to US and you start jiu-jitsu in a garage.
Okay, so
how was that impact on your head? It's like,
Okay, so it's what you don't know that hurts you in life a lot of times. You get surprised by things that you don't anticipate. An experience should have taught you, but you don't have the experience yet. So you're going to have to get hurt so you can earn the lesson. So coming to America, we're kind of naive as, being young. And in Brazil, the culture in Brazil, it's kind of like you live in a spa. We had the fortune to have a dad that was middle class, upper middle class. So we were always able to afford maids, cleaning ladies. We had a cook. So literally, until I came to America, I was used as if I was living in a hotel. Even when I was a roommate to Jean-Jacques, all the masks, I would always leave the mask. Jacqueline, his wife, would go crazy. My gosh, And at that time, I didn't know any better. It was a culture I was conditioned to, So coming to America, there's that shock that you're still doing the same things. You're still conditioned to think and act in a certain way, thinking that everything's going to fall in your lap. But in reality, you're going to have to go out and get it. It's just a matter of time. And when we first came, our original goal was to work with our cousin in the first new academy, the first official Gracie Academy. But my brother Higan was already kind of worn out of all having the garage dojos, for instance. Thank you, sir. Having the garage dojo was a model that it was a precursor before we actually, I guess everybody else had school. There was not an official school, so we had double car garage mats that could accommodate private lessons throughout the day. I remember my brother Higa, teaching shifts of morning to lunch, and then lunch to late afternoon, and then group class at night. It was literally a 12 to 16-hour shift on the mat.
Yeah.
I remember one time Hickson had to go to Hawaii. I had to replace him. He had 12 privates. 12 full-hour privates.
One day?
In one day.
Wow.
And I was there replacing him. So I remember having a rest in between a few lessons and eating something, having a smoothie, and then going back. And by the time we're done. So it was a lot of grinding. But there was the formula then to, and I guess everything was funneled to Horion, who was trying to use the proceedings to help finance the building of an amazing school, the first Gracie Academy, and so on. But we had decided, before everything came to fruition, that we would go on our own, And I'm not sure were you already here when that happened?
I came in 91 for a nice vacation, but every day, hey, you're gonna wait for what are you waiting for? You gotta come here.
So the basic idea was when Higan and I talked about saying we don't want to go in this direction. We feel our philosophy is not the same, and We want to be more control over how we handle things. And it's one of those difficult conversations that you have to have, but it's about your destiny. You know what I'm saying? You got to have those. So me, John, and Higan decided unison to talk to our cousin and say, we're going to go on our own. But at that time, ironically, we never considered using the Machado name. Still, I wanted to name the school after my cousin or my uncle. That's who we represented. And to a certain degree, that's who we still represent. We all come and learn from them to an extent, but our philosophy has differentiated to a point, and now we create our own. So now if you can say about Jean-Jacques or about me, we have our own legacies. Regardless of where we came from, we built a new, not losing track of our roots, but if you talk about Carlos Machado or talk about JeanJacquesMachado, it's a different legacy right now than the one that we came from because we have a different level of philosophy. But just to finish up, so from that, then we had a little differences. Chuck Norris came to do a demonstration with us. He got us our first school. He did a private with us in the garage with Higan. Then eventually I started teaching him. And he said, what, I'm going to help you guys out. Do you want to jump into that one?
No, you go ahead, sir.
So for a year, we didn't have to pay rent. We had this place in Tarzana.
Encino. It was Encino.
Encino, he built the school. And then
that was a shopping center.
Yeah, with Bob Wall. Yeah. Another very thankful for them, but both amazing. And when we talk about Chuck, here is about benefactors. Where is it? Famous friends and real friends. So Chuck Norris was famous, but he was also real. You know what I'm saying? So when people talk about celebrities, a lot of times what you see on the screen is not exactly what it is in real life. Chuck Norris was real all the way.
And remember, as a kid in Brazil, we used to watch his movies.
Yeah.
And how was that? Suddenly you sit at the table, having dinner, talking to him, and knowing Chuck Norris different than everybody else.
So I can tell you this. The first time that Chuck Norris and I ever had a picture together, he's the one that suggested. Because the very first time I met him, me and my brothers, we decided, we're not going to ever ask for an autograph. We're not going to ever ask for a picture. We just want him to be at ease with us because that's what everybody else does.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the funny thing is, every time after the class, we take him for lunch. We pay for him. We never let him pay. And that never happened to him before. It's like, well, wait a minute. Usually I pay for everybody. You guys taking care of me.
He was a great guy, and there's so much that we can talk about Chuck, but just to make a long story short, the divisor in between where we were and where we ended up going happened after Chuck Norris had a demonstration. He flew from Vegas for one day just to come see us, and on the mall that we had our academy, there was an atrium, an open space downstairs, where we were supposed to do a demonstration, a jiu-jitsu demonstration. And I remember I had a private client called Bruce Cruzada.
Yeah, I remember him.
Okay, the guy's a real estate guy, super nice. And he said, you know what, I'm going to call LA Times, and see if a reporter comes here just to cover this event. Bear with me, Jay. At that time, there was no cell phones, no laptops or anything like that. So everybody read newspapers way more than now. So Chuck Norris comes, the reporter takes pictures of him and I doing techniques on the ground, and then him doing the techniques on the mat outside. It makes this almost full-page picture of Chuck Norris on the back on the sports section. Now imagine this. Nowadays you have NFL, you have NBA, you have a celebrity saying jiu-jitsu. The name of the title was Ambassadors of the Gentle Art, and he laid out. And bear with me, our school was still called Carlos Gracies Jiu-Jitsu. So that created a bit of an issue later that we're not going to go into details, but precipitated us eventually saying, you know what? Let's not step on anybody's toes. We're going to call from this on Machado Jiu-Jitsu. So that was the birth. After that demonstration, the name Machado Jiu-Jitsu was born in the United States.
Yeah, and public perception being what it is, the way I interpreted it before I joined, before I signed up, I read about all you guys. And I always took it like, wow, you could have easily carried the weight of your work by carrying the Gracie name, and it would have taken you really far, but you kind of chose to forge your own path. And I always looked at it because I read your biographies, and I'm like, oh, they're honoring their father.
Look,
they're keeping
but I
the
tell you
Machado
this,
name.
I
you
tell
know?
you this, it was not our choice to do that.
Yeah,
we're forced to do that. We would never have changed the name unless we were forced to.
And it is obvious when I started here from day one, it was never in doubt the lineage and the legacy. That's why we have the masters hanging on the wall, including Carlos Gracie Jr., who gave JeanJacques black
I'm
belt.
so thankful for every single one.
Yeah, Carlos is what? You're the second Carlos Gracie Jr.'s black belt?
I'm not sure.
was the
Higgin got
one.
first. Am I second?
I think you were right. You're right after.
I was after
don't know.
Higgin.
Yeah,
right after. Yeah.
But yeah, you can't lose sight of where you came from.
Oh, no.
I think
No,
that's
I'll never-
really,
I'll never.
really important.
I always give credit for sure.
and how was that early days in America? Because the way we teach today was a little bit different back in those days. I remember when I arrived here, was a lot of basic techniques. I mean,
Only close guard and open guard, right?
Exactly, and the scissor sweep and the arm and the Americana from the mount. And how was that? How was the evolution of the teaching aspect from that time until today? What changed?
So I feel we didn't have a roadmap, and we had a dream without a vision. You know what I'm saying? So, for instance, we had the dream, but the vision was not clear yet. The puzzle the pieces were not together. Okay, so I figured being a student is one thing, being a teacher or an instructor is something else. You know, and when you're an instructor, your goal is to produce good students, to teach all you can. But if you don't have a roadmap, okay, how are we going to make a system here? Do I know what I'm going to teach today? Because the way it was random. I teach one thing today, I teach one thing tomorrow, and I let everybody teach whatever they want. So I really felt that the American students didn't have the luxury of having parents that could support them until they decided to leave the house. So anybody in Brazil can train 8 hours a day, whether they have a job or not, whether they go to college or not. So how can we make this consumable and it's still high quality? So I felt gradually, I didn't have the structure that I have now, but I started to plan, you know, what I'm going to teach. Plan what I'm going to teach and all that stuff. I think the techniques in themselves, Jean-Jacques, we all have our styles, we all have our roots, but I feel students learn at different pace. Some are more gifted than others. So my thing is I want to make the average above the average. I just want an average Joe to become the best student he or she can be, whether is a world champion or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, even better if they are, but if they are not, they're still not going to miss what they can get from jiu-jitsu and maximize their potentials, you know. So I felt we didn't have any idea. Like our intro class back then was, you got a tough wrestler coming in, let's roll and go all out and see how many times I can tap you out to show you how good jiu-jitsu is. But then after a while, man, this is getting old. You know what I'm saying? I've had broken nose. I was bleeding different times. This guy tried to throw himself with me to the window. I'm like, this is becoming a liability here. There has to be an easier way. And then when the UFC happened and people start to come to learn jiu-jitsu because they wanted to learn, not just to test, they somewhat were understanding that jiu-jitsu was an important piece of the component. It became a little easier. And of course, today, you know, you don't have to say anything. Just share what you know on the mat. Yeah. But I think the evolution still is in place. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the Brazilian culture is more informal. High five, shake hands, not much. They don't want to be disrespectful. They just don't use anything that instills respect. There's no bowing or anything like that. So I feel the other martial arts had a lot to teach us in that regard, which unfortunately was open to it. Some of my students started to question when I told them to bow first time. But like anytime there's change, there will be resistance. So you're not fighting for the present, you're fighting for the future. Mm-hmm. So if it's going to cause a very positive impact, I'm okay losing some now so we can make a much greater impact later on.
Let me ask you this too, is there any few funny stories that you can share that happened to you with your cousins or brothers as growing up?
Oh my gosh, so many. Let's see here. I had the Chuck Norris impersonators. Is that what you're thinking of? We had a brothers camp, and there was a student of ours that looked just like Chuck Norris. Higgin was teaching a class, and then the guy comes with, the sunglasses, and shows up on the mat acting like Chuck Norris. And then John says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring to your attention our best friend here, Mr. Chuck Norris." And Higgin was like, "Oh man, why didn't you tell me?" This is just, there's certain things here and there, like.
We have that in camera, man. That was so funny.
We always had a...
Which one is your favorite brother? I thought I'm going to ask him that.
I think I have
good answer.
Whoever's near to me at the time I'm talking. So right now, can I touch this guy here? That's my best brother right there.
Well, I can ask you the same thing I asked your brother Roger. It's not a favorite question. It's just when you guys were all coming up together, did you find you gravitated towards one brother more than the other? Not for any other reason that it just...
Personality, compatibility,
you know how
stuff like that.
When you train, you kind of gravitate...
I spent a lot of time with Higgin because Higgin and I, when we first moved to Rio, we were living in the same place, and actually we were being instructors at the same school. So we're pretty much, and then later on with Jean-Jacques, when Higgin left, me and Jean-Jacques, I was his roommate.
Consequently, too, you moved to U.S. and again started with Higgin too.
Yeah, I was with Higgin and John for a little while, and then eventually, as you know, I moved to Texas.
Yeah, how was that? How about that, man?
That note I have here.
You left us. I came all the way from Brazil to be next to you. Then I said, "Okay, Jean-Jacques, I'm moving to Texas."
Let me tell you.
And I go, wait a minute.
If you watched the Godfather movie, an offer you can't refuse. So Chuck Norris said, "Come to Texas. I'm going to help you build a school. Your school's going to be inside my studio, and I'm going to hire every week to work on my show. And until you have enough students to make your own, and you don't need it, So I said, man, you're telling me you're going to beat me up, fight me, pay me more than I would if I'm teaching. And on top of that, I can teach when I'm not working with you. Hell yeah. I'm going to be a movie star, So, yeah, I mean, who does that for you, Jay? The guy offered, because he wanted to train jiu-jitsu.
But that was the funny thing, too, is I went to his place once, and the school was inside of the studio.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the middle of the class, we have a light.
A buzzer,
a red light. A buzzer, and then I have to stop.
Like on
no
air.
Noise.
Yeah, so you have to train, but nobody can talk and stuff. Eventually, you outgrew the place. And, the irony of all that, he was so busy with his show that he used to train more when I was living here in California than when I went to Texas. He barely trained when I went there.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
then you end up staying there since then.
Yeah, I know, for 25 years. 26 this year.
And how was that? How's your everyday, Carlos? Going to teach the school? I know you fall in love with Texas there and have your school and your whole family. Now you're father of 4 kids. They're all teenagers, almost young adults.
Yeah.
You see, how is that?
Okay, so made in Texas, right? So
how
95 to 2000. That was the first 5 years. I didn't have any black belts yet. My first black belts were in 2002. I had 4 black belts: Travis Luter, Tim Burrell, Clay Pittman, and William Vandry. So that was the first time ever. Actually, I joked about it because being in Rio and being in California, I stayed long enough that I had brown belts. Then I left. So, they were my students in Higgins, my students in Jacques, but I never had the pleasure to be there or to officially rank somebody. So I actually joked about it and said, man, I'm not moving out of Texas until I make my own black belts. And I created a good group of guys who used to train hard. It was like hardcore at that time. And people would train like round robins, forever. They were in good shape. I would make them run, before class. It was like a boot camp sort of mentality. And of course, eventually, as you progress, you age more and stuff. You try to optimize your work. You don't have to work as hard. So then I met my soulmate, my wife. In 2000, 2001, we started dating. 2002, we married, and then from then on, 4 kids in 5 years. And that was another decisive fact, because Brazilians have a different culture, and I really had a contrast because my wife comes from South Carolina. First time in her mind, what she thought was, what the world I'm doing here. Because she walked into the apartment I used to rent, and there was a mountain of keys on the washer, like on the laundry. Because I have so many keys, instead of going to wash the keys, I would pile them up until there was no more space. Then I would have to wash them all. She said, "Oh my gosh, I was a slobber, a slob," and But anyhow, she straightened me out, helped me out tremendously. I don't know how women do what they do. And my wife in particular, being the mother of 4 children and helping me with my business in ways I've never been able to be helped and achieve results. So she set me straight. She set me straight really good. And it was definitely a deciding moment in my life in very positive way, but with a lot of struggles that being newly married and newly parenting, represents. So, but go ahead.
No, I like to hear that. I don't want to interrupt you. You're in a row, and
yes.
And if you guys don't realize, he wrote some notes of what he wants to talk.
Yeah.
Look at this. Go ahead. I'm just following you now.
Yeah. So on the, as you were talking about, on the evolution, right? So I always consider myself an instructor. An instructor can go so far. For instance, you teach your students what they need to learn. You try to be positive, give them motivation, self-confidence, and things like that. But the mentorship part, it's like, how can you make what works on the mat be applied in real life? Yeah. There has to be more than just instruction of jiu-jitsu. Like when Jean-Jacques says, what you say after you end the class, the pep talk, the mat chats, those things really, you want to read something there? Or?
No, somebody gave me this book.
Oh, there you go. You still remember that?
See, as you guys can see it. It's a book he wrote. I mean, when I say he was the brightest and the smartest one, look at this.
No, man.
This is quotes.
Just quotes.
A lot of quotes that he comes up. And as you know, English is his second language, but feels like it's his first language for sure. Let's see here some of the things, Carlos. The problem with life is that we give it what we have, not what we can. Ironically, what we have is not enough, but what we can is all it asks. Mm-hmm. Come on, man. How do you come up with so many thoughts?
I can't explain because I don't think about it. It just comes through. I have some quotes that I'm going to read towards the end that it's more about master and disciple. That kind of applies to us. But there's any other one that you read?
I have so many. For every win, there is a way. For every defeat, a lesson.
There you go.
There's so many things that, see? Look at this, man. Look, I'm going to, go ahead, keep life can be oppressive only your will can make it liberating. Look at this. The mind paints the picture, but only the heart can add the colors. Damn, I don't know, man.
There you go.
See, I gotta save that one. See?
That one, you gotta write it down.
The mind paints the picture, but only the heart can add colors. We gotta keep that one. Save that one, Mike. We gotta keep that one.
Hey, put that as title of the podcast, right?
Do you still have this book for sale?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's on cmjjgear.com as well.
Putting the pieces together, is that right? That's how we call?
Yep.
Man, a lot of amazing pieces here. And he didn't know. I'm not doing this to make advertise, just
he likes to read the quotes.
Man, that's I'm gonna steal a bunch. I'm gonna say that I wrote those and people, hey, okay. Jack, nice quote.
Yeah. So where were we?
But Carlos, I wanna ask you, what Jiu-Jitsu means to you?
Like I was saying, Jiu-Jitsu.
No, I'm getting you out of your script.
No. Yeah, that's what it is. Impacting people's lives, changing people's lives.
I'm asking about you.
Oh, me?
Yeah, what Jiu-Jitsu impacting you? I know what you can do to other people.
Love. You do because you love. I was teaching a class Sunday, this past weekend, Sunday morning, 9 to 12. I had a session with kids and adults. Kids first, adults later. Sent a picture to my wife. I said, man, I couldn't ask for more fun than teaching. You express yourself. For me, it kind of like if I can answer a question to a student and make them realize they can do it right then, they don't have to wait for another day. When you do that, it kind of fulfills you, regardless of any financial gain you may have of getting paid with the service that you're providing. I feel it motivates me. Jiu-Jitsu, it keeps me motivated. It's your service. Let me complement that. Like, for instance, let's say you can't go and do a seminar, and with your reputation in your name, you may not even teach much. You just go there, teach a little bit, and then stay there for the pictures. And let's say you have the attitude, let's say, I'm going there because I did it. I have a name. They are there for me. People are there for me. They come for the seminar for me. I think it's a very wrong way to think. I go there for them. It's the other way around.
Yeah, for
the
sure.
sense of service always goes that person is the priority, not me. Because the way I look at it, if anybody was in my shoes, they either would know as much, if not more, jiu-jitsu than I do. You know what I'm saying? So I don't consider I'm superior because I have more knowledge than somebody that was not given the same opportunity or experience. But so to answer your question about jiu-jitsu, for me, it's love and expression of art. I'm sorry, I keep hitting the microphone. So yeah, I love doing it, man. So everything that I do spins from there.
'Cause I think we all know that we never have a day of working in our lives, because what we do is not, I don't feel that I'm working ever.
Let me tell you what work is. It's what's outside the mat. All the other words that you have to have. It's like showtime means mat time. We're here. But everything that happens before and after, that's work. That's the stuff that,
And basing a lot of things that you write, and I like to read a lot of quotes and from so many people, but I don't see the quantity and the quality of what you write here. It's amazing. How do you use jiu-jitsu on your everyday life?
Okay, so I teach group classes. I do videos consistently. I teach private clients. I do seminars. Now I'm motivated to train my kids some more. That's the irony of it. You train everybody but your own. Because my kids have trained more with their uncles and other people than they've done with me. So I feel like as a dad, there's that interest in me, especially now. I said, I want to make more time for them.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the chance to make the time for them when they were younger. Not that I could have, but I didn't, regardless. So I want to make sure that for the remaining time that I have ahead, while they're still under my wings, that I can give them something else, in addition to. But how do I use jiu-jitsu? I try to eat well. I try to exercise. I try to keep the lifestyle.
Is there anything that you keep with you from what Carlos Grace said, conversation that had, something that he mentioned? I'm sure it's more than one, but...
He was the two greatest influence of men in my life. My dad, our dad, and my uncle, late Master Carlos Gracies.
Yeah, because he wrote something, again, the 3 Carlos of my life. Can you kind of know those 3 guys that a lot of people don't know that Chuck, his name is Carlos.
Yep.
You have Carlos Gracie, Carlos Machado, Carlos Gracie, and Carlos Norris.
Carlos Norris, yeah.
The 3 guys that do have impact a lot in our
They impacted
lives
my
in general.
life more than any other man. Yep.
And
You talk about what Uncle Carlos...
yeah, something that he said or mentioned to you that you're still carrying that.
Last words I heard from him in my life before I came to America, be humble. Yeah, he said, you don't have to prove anything. He said that to me right before, a couple of days before I left Brazil. And it was 1990 when I left Brazil. I never came back to Brazil until 1996. My dad died the end of that year in 1990. And Uncle Carlos died in 1994, at age 94, ironically. To my dad, the last word I told him was, you're the best dad in the world, truly, out of the heart. I mean, I was glad at least that, we talked on the phone after that, but live, that's what I told him. And Uncle Carlos, he said, be humble. And so when we had our very first print article in America in a magazine. The very title on top was "Leave Your Ego at the Door." That was the name of the article, and that became a motto that every school, Machado school, most of them carry still. You know, I changed more recently to train smart, stay humble, because I feel knowing more jiu-jitsu means you become smarter how you train, so you can last longer and enjoy it further. So, but still originates from that advice their uncle gave.
Who is Carlos Machado?
Carlos Machado is a man on a mission. Okay, my mission is really far. My ambition is to create, in the next few years, an impact in the lives of every single person I can touch, generations to come. If I have an instructor that learns from me, I want to make sure their kids and grandkids. Okay, and in that regard, I can add a few things, why and how I believe that.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to add a few things into. Carlos Machado is someone who always been in our house because he's the oldest, the pioneer, I would say, the one that made a lot of decisions in very tough times in all his younger brother's life.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who constantly care about all the other brothers. Someone who is always been an example. Someone that we always know we can count on him no matter what. And someone very special in my life and to all the other brothers.
Thank you, Jean-Jacques. Thank you. I cannot reciprocate, man.
All right, man. I will leave this way, and I think I love that one. That man, the quote that we had. What was that? The paint. We remember that.
Yeah, the mind. There's the paint and the heart as the color. What was that?
Yeah. Man,
you found
I gotta find that page because that's an
I'll find it
incredible
for you.
one.
Hold on.
I wanna end with that because it's something really. The mind paints the picture,
Yeah.
but only the heart can add the colors. That's what I can say. My brother Carlos Machado is the one who brings colors to all his brothers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos, for
thank you
being
very
here,
much.
man.
Great to have you here.
Gonna have to talk a lot more to be saying. Anything that you left out you wanna mention?
Just to finish.
I wanna see. Yeah, you can. You
Okay,
should
so-
say something about your organization,
No,
things that you do too.
I don't need to extend. Just like I'm in the legacy building. I want to build a legacy. I want to leave the world a better place. That's what I believe legacy is, generational impact. So I have a brother from another mother as
Yes.
well. My partner, Adam Kroll, who has been instrumental in helping me achieve those goals. We are both with the same vision and the same mission. And if anybody is interested in coffee, we have a new brand coming up soon, Stay Humble Coffee. So I want to say that. And if anybody wants to find out anything about Carlos Machado, you're more than welcome to go to the @Carlos Machado Jiu-Jitsu Instagram and say hi, or the Carlos Machado fan page. And I guess that's it. Just
And
close
please
the deal and thank.
do continue to be an inspiration to all your brothers and millions of people out there. Thank you,
Thank you, my
Carlos.
brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.